The US government's top secret arms race. In the future, there will be only two types of countries: hyper-developed and third world. There will be nothing in between. And each country's standing will be determined by its access to at-risk metals, ARMs. Not only that, but arms stockpiles will give any country that holds them leverage over the rest of the world. Let me give you 3 reasons why. Reason number 1. Without arms, at-risk metals, there is no digital revolution. As you can see, look at the critical metals used in the semiconductors. Things like arsenic, beryllium, copper. Look where the US get them from. What about gallium, germanium, the rare earths? 2 of the 3 most used materials for semiconductors are at-risk metals. They're highlighted in the orange above. Cut off access to those metals, and there are no more smartphones, computers, TVs, or any other system that depends on chips to operate. Even AI, with its insatiable hunger for more chips, would become untrainable and unusable. Not only that, but AI's energy becomes untenable because, reason number 2, without these metals, there is also no green revolution. This is critical. Lithium, nickel, cobalt, manganese, and graphite are on the US Department of Energy's arms list, and they are all crucial for batteries. Others on the list are key inputs for EVs, wind turbines, and solar panels. In the UK, 7 of the points in their government's 10-point plan for a green industrial revolution require a stable supply of arms into the country. Without these key minerals to power grid and infrastructure, the citizens of countries without at-risk metals won't be able to easily communicate, travel, or work. That alone is enough to knock a country back into the 19th century. But then there's reason number 3. Arms are crucial to national defense. Everything from modern firearms and missile guidance systems to F-35s and nuclear submarines are reliant on these at-risk metals. As the UK government puts it with usual understatement, sustained disruption to arms supply would reduce the UK's freedom of action. Or as the US government puts it with its usual bluntness, without these materials, history shows that industrialized nations have been defeated on the battlefield. In short, no country on earth will remain developed or sovereign without access to at-risk metals. The US government's powerful armed forces. Fortunately for the United States, it has a powerful covert arm that will ensure it remains a superpower in the 21st century. Just before the US entries into World War II, several government officials saw that access to materials required to win the war was at risk of being cut off. Almost overnight, 2 clandestine government agencies sprang to life to procure arms, the at-risk metals for the United States. The Metals Reserve Company, MRC, which spent billions to procure and subsidize the strategic critical metals and minerals necessary to win the war. The National Defense Stockpile, which purchased and held 42 raw at-risk materials relevant to national defense. In fact, one of the greatest mining companies ever to come out of North America was only there because it had an offtake with the National Defense Stockpile for the life of its mine, at multiples to the spot price of those metals. Both organizations were decisive forces in helping to win the war, but over time, the apparent necessity of supporting domestic arms production and holding a stockpile waned. The Iron Curtain fell, massive sources of critical metals or minerals became available to Western manufacturers. The US government sold off its massive arms stockpiles to reap peace dividends, and it defunded the National Defense Stockpile. Yes, that is all true. US production of at-risk materials decreased and reliance on imports increased. And that presents a huge problem. Because the government uses 2 proxies to determine the risk of supply disruption for an at-risk metal: production concentration, how much countries can provide it, and import dependence, how much the US has to import from other countries. And for decades, for nearly every arm on the list, both of these have been headed in precisely the wrong direction. The mineral most wanted list. In 1954, the United States was 25% or more reliant on another country for 21 mineral commodities. Now that number is 58 today. And it's 75% or more reliant on other countries for 39 elements. That trend is not your friend. The biggest problem is that the production of these commodities is extremely concentrated in all the wrong countries if you're in the US. For example, Russia is the top producer of palladium in the world. It's also the second largest producer of nickel, the third largest of cobalt, and the fifth largest of graphite, all of which are necessary for the battery production. When the Russia-Ukraine conflict began in 2022, it suddenly became clear how much leverage its arms had over the rest of the world. The price of metals Russia dominated immediately skyrocketed, some of them doubled in price. For several decades, China has also been using state intervention and subsidies to establish control of several at-risk metals markets, including cobalt, lithium, and rare earth elements. To give a sense of just how dominant Chinese production has become, consider this. The United Kingdom has a list of 18 ARMs, that's at-risk metals. China is the largest producer of 12 of those. China has established a vice grip on the US, being the largest source of imports for several ARMs like the semiconductor metals in the first table of this article you're looking at. China has already begun flexing its muscle. In just the last year, it has enacted major export restrictions for germanium and gallium, both on the list I showed earlier, as well as the graphite and rare earth extraction technologies. The message is clear. The arms race is on, and it's winner takes all. A task for the nation. With stakes getting higher in 2022, a White House assessment found that the reliance on posed national and economic security threats. As a result, the US has begun to redeploy the same strategy used in World War II to gain access to arms by any means necessary, including removing all roadblocks to domestic mining and increasing arms diplomacy with allies and rebuilding massive arms stockpiles. The magnitude of each of these will be much greater than you might imagine. Over the course of World War II, the Metals Reserve Company, remember the one that the US government funded for World War II, spent $43 billion in 2024 dollars to purchase 50 different metals and minerals for more than 50 countries for its war effort. Expenditures for this round will be much, much higher. So the price and profitability of at-risk metals is likely to rise dramatically in the coming years. The last time this story played out, the US won. It both procured the necessary materials and won the entire war. The stakes are higher this time. The minerals are far more crucial, and they're located in fewer, more powerful countries. But make no mistake, this is just another step in the rise of America. America will win, and a few companies will profit tremendously. To find out which one of those before anyone else, you'll want to catch up on my premium research service, the KRO. Stay safe. Subscribe to the KRO, which is a Katusa Resource Opportunities, to find out exactly what prices I'm buying at and what price I sell at before the trade occurs. And you get to sell before I do. If you want to give your portfolio an edge, consider becoming a member and giving it a try for yourself.